it's not morbid at all. It's life affirming, to really look intimately at the dying process and becoming familiar with that and finding beauty in it in some ways, and it's just the naturalness of it, um, that the body knows what to do, and if you just allow it to do its process to feel, um, that it's not something to be, feared or to work against, that you're actually allowing something that will happen to everyone to just happen, and to make it as comfortable and beautiful as possible.
1 second.
There
There
it
you
is. We're
go.
live. Great.
We're live. And you can see that,
Yes.
which is good. So
Great.
if at any point it looks like it isn't, just tell me, because it's a bit, I don't know, a bit unpredictable.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome everybody. You're about to meet Rich Curtis, and I know him as the Breath Poems guy because I know that Joe, who organises and runs this festival, is really excited about what he's doing. So we're going to be on for maybe half an hour or something and just talk about his work, which in a nutshell is around end-of-life breathing and poetry and artistic expressions of that. But he's really, really exciting, really, really interesting. I'm not sure that he knows that, but he is, to me at least. And he's in Georgia right now and talking to us from Georgia. I don't know what time it is over there. What time is it, Rich?
So it is 8 o'clock in the morning, or 8:15 in the morning.
See,
so
that's dedication, isn't it? You could have just been having your coffee and getting up. It's about, we just had our lunch. Yeah, it's about 1:15.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What your name is and sort of like your job title, because that's quite interesting in itself, and just a bit about you,
Sure.
I think.
So my name is Rich Curtis. I am associate professor of art at Thomas University, which is a small liberal arts college in southern Georgia in the States. And I've been here for about 15 years. And it's it's been an interesting journey professionally. But as a small college, I'm sort of the one-man art department, so I teach all of the art history and art appreciation and all the studio art classes. And so studio art is really my background. Lecturing was something I had to actually get used to, and so I have been teaching these these kinds of classes for that long, and it's been a good journey. And one of the things that I have been interested in is kind of finding ways to uh, integrate my background. I'm started in undergrad as a painter, so drawing and painting is really my sort of my first language. And then in graduate school, I was exploring performance art. So I got my MFA in performance, and which is sort of an integration of kind of body-based and time-based art, where the body is the medium. So your actions, um, your gestures, or some activity is the artwork that you're producing, and so I found it interesting to use drawing and performance as a kind of integration. And then one of the things when I was sort of in undergrad, I was also writing a lot, and that's kind of my segue into the performance world, is like creating scripts for performance, or some kind of using my poetry in some way. And then that got me into the world of sound poetry, which is it's non-linguistic, poetic recitations of either like phonetic sounds, or like mimicking the vacuum cleaner or something. These kinds of things where it's sound based. And I don't tend to use a lot of technology. A lot of sound poets will filter their voice through computers and that sort of thing. But I have pretty much just kept to um, the sounds that I can make. But there hasn't been really a venue for making strange sounds in public down in South Georgia. So I have kind of let that go for
I
a
mean,
number
you
of years
say
and gone.
that. You say
Mhm.
that, but there's been quite a lot of strange noise coming out of the States lately.
That's true.
Oh,
Of a kind, yes, yeah, definitely, completely. Um, and so that's what. But so so and maybe this is the perfect time to introduce completely non-linguistic sounds to. It makes as much sense. But so I'm so I started about 6 years ago. Started volunteering with hospice, the local hospice, and, sitting bedside with people who are dying and staying with their families and visiting them on a weekly basis, and the things that you do as a volunteer. And I started really one of the projects that I did to begin with was to draw draw the patient's hands. And so I did a whole series of, and still do a series of hands, the hands of wisdom. Basically, I'm drawing these people's hands on their either on their deathbed or you know um, as they allow me to, or their families wish me to. And so that's been a kind of way of, um, as somebody who's fairly introverted, it was a way of doing something that I knew how to do and loved, and it was a way of connecting with my families. And so that was the first way I kind of integrated my art um, and the hospice work. And then as I progressed, I started really getting interested in the in-stage breathing patterns and finding them to be quite musical in a certain way. And so that reminded me again of this kind of sound poetry background that I had. And I was interested in trying to find not just the sounds, but the rhythms of the breathing as a as a kind of score. And so I did some recordings of people's breath and started just kind of working with that, and then doing some writing. So kind of back and forth between text and these sounds developed into this score. That's kind of an ongoing. It's a work in progress, but it's still. This is sort of the beginnings of that. I would love to do a longer series of them, but so
that's
that's kind of.
amazing. I'm feeling like I don't know where Joe finds people, but you're such a find because that's extraordinary. I worked in an art centre for a really long time, over a decade, and I used to love all that body specific art. It's so immersive. It's just so interesting. And I have never heard of that. And I worked for a long time with all kinds of weird and wonderful things. I haven't heard of that before. The other thing I really like about it is that when we talk about end of life breathing, normally we're talking about it as a distressing thing. And
Right.
everyone always talks about chain stoking and about apnea and all of the things that happen at the end and how distressing it is and what can be done about it. And it's interesting, it's timely, because yesterday I spent a whole day with a friend of mine who's a death doula, and she was talking about it, talking us all through the different types of end stage breathing and how actually, as long as you're dealing with things well, it's not something to be anxious about, which I didn't know. And I like the idea that you're taking something that's usually seen as negative or alarming or frightening and turning it into something beautiful and intriguing. That seems like a very positive thing to be doing.
Thank you. Yes, that is kind of that was my inspiration, finding beauty in this in these sounds and these breaths that is for the family typically something that they are um, alarmed by or feel like they need to, like when they hear the death rattle, that it is so disconcerting, I think, to people who are hearing it for the first time, but to take that and use it as raw material for something that transform the idea of it, and hopefully it becomes something that is kind of inspiring for the person who, rather than something scary, or it can be, transform it in some way for
I
them.
have many, many questions that I'll come on to.
Oh, great.
If people are listening and or watching when they come to see you, and I'm sure you'll go into this in your presentation, let's tell everybody when you're coming, because then people can log in and actually hear it, because what I know we're all thinking is, oh, I just want to hear it, I just want to hear it. But you'll have to come to the Lifting the Lid Festival. I'm not going to give you any sneak previews. So tell everybody when you're coming, and then we'll talk a bit more about what end of life breathing is.
Yeah. So my session is, I know it in Eastern time zone in the States is 4:45 to 5:15. I guess it's 6 hours ahead, GMT.
You're looking at 9:45, people.
Quarter to
21:45 until 10:15 in the evening on that Friday the 14th. Yeah.
That's a perfect time.
Perfect time. Yeah, really, really good. And you can get tickets at Ticket Tailor, and links are in the Instagram bio, and we will give you all the things about it later. I think what would be really helpful for people who don't know anything about end of life, to explain just a little bit about why end of life breathing is characteristic and interesting in terms of making poetry in ways that other types of breathing might not be.
Well, as we were kind of talking about, just the sense of it being something that people are repelled by, or scared of, or uncertain about, taking something like that and transforming it into something beautiful was.
Do you think people
important.
know what chain stoking is, or what death rattle means? I think some people.
So I can describe those. My understanding of them.
Yeah.
So you call it chain stoking?
Yeah.
I've not.
It's to do with a guy called
Cheney Stokes, or okay, Cheney Stokes. But yes, so that type of breathing is just it is a long pause that ends with a gasp, and then there's a kind of hyperventilation following that, and then a long pause. So it's a kind of erratic breathing pattern that I think people, when they are sitting bedside, might think, oh, they've stopped breathing. Is this it? And then they all of a sudden, and so there's a kind of it can be kind of alarming, repeatedly alarming, and so you have this kind of erratic breathing, and then I've heard of agonal or agonal breathing, meaning asymmetrical kinds of breathing, where it's there's a longer inhale than there is an exhale, and so there's a lot of it's kind of staccato, thinking in terms of musical forms, and so that can be kind of breathing. And then I think the most alarming to a lot of people who were sitting bedside, or families, would be the death rattle, which is really just when fluid or phlegm is kind of in the throat, and there's a kind of sound, a very pronounced rattle as they're inhaling. It's almost like a gurgling slash snoring, and that it could sound like somebody's choking or whatever, but it's really just a little bit of phlegm being activated, and so that it's perfectly natural, and it doesn't hurt the person who is at the end of life. And so those are the kinds of the three main sort of breathing patterns that I was focused on for this particular piece was that. And
I'm just going to have a quick check that I haven't said the wrong thing about chain stoking. So I did this thing yesterday, and I was like, I feel like I know everything now, and I might not. So just check.
And I don't think I've heard somebody speak it. I've only read it, so I just pronounced it Cheney Stokes.
But it's not called chain stoking at all. It's not. It's called chain Stokes. That's what you said, like the name. Chain Stokes is an abnormal breathing pattern. I thought it was stoking. I had this feeling I'd said the wrong
But
thing. Chain
I,
stokes, everybody. Anyway, I'm not a death dealer.
which is not chain
Right.
smoking either. So that's
Yeah. That's what's happened, isn't it? I've done
yeah.
that in my head. I don't think people are chain smoking at the end of life. Some
Right.
people are. I remember seeing someone once. I went to Paris. It's so London. It's so French. There was this person who was using a wheelchair, and they were hooked up to oxygen, an actual oxygen tank, and they were smoking at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So French.
I've I've been to people's houses where they're in a wheelchair, they have their nose the air on, but they will wheel themselves to the outside to the porch, close the door so they can smoke with their oxygen on. I'm like, and of course it's
That's
a fire
just-
hazard too.
Yeah, but it's so human as well. I really
Yeah.
like that about it. Right, so my questions are many, and they're from an artistic perspective.
Wonderful.
And I'm feeling that my main question is, has it become part of your journey towards your own understanding of your own mortality? Has it given you any sense of meaning, or is that a good question? I feel like it might be.
It's a wonderful question, and I don't know that I've consciously thought of it that way, but I definitely think, well, the work itself is definitely the volunteering and I guess I should say I also 2 years ago went and did further certification to do end of life doula, but I still practice that basically as a volunteer with the hospice. So, but it just kind of goes to my interest in the field, and it has completely transformed my relationship to my own mortality, and really just I like to say that it's not morbid at all. It's life affirming, to really look intimately at the dying process, and becoming familiar with that, and finding beauty in it in some ways, and it's just the naturalness of it, that the body knows what to do, and if you just allow it to do its process, to feel that it's not something to be feared, or to be to work against, that you're actually allowing something that will happen to everyone to just happen, and to make it as comfortable and beautiful as possible, and hope that when my time comes, that I can have some agency and be able to kind of craft how I die in some point. Definitely has given me pause, and I've written my advance directive because I've been working in this, and that sort of thing. It has definitely opened my eyes to not making it such a scary mystery, but to actually embrace it.
When you think about breath, and especially in today's context, with a lot of stuff coming up with breathwork practitioners, stuff about nasal breathing, stuff about the importance of taking a breath, it's become very normal in common parlance to use the term take a breath. And I think people increasingly now know that it lowers our blood pressure if we do box breathing, that we all suddenly know what that is. And if you look back in time, the annals of time, at literature, everything, breath is, even just in the Bible, the breath of life at the beginning of the world. So, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a Hebrew word for breath, which is the same as spirit. And I'm fascinated by the idea that breath is life, in the way that it became kind of post-enlightenment much more about the brain, and it's a very cerebral thing, that life, until your brain stops, then when your brain stops, your life stops. And the idea of focusing on the breath is really exciting to me, because it's bringing us back to the body. And there's so much somatic practice now. There are people on Lifting the Lid who are somatic practitioners and celebrants who are focusing on that now. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it just really means using the body and being in touch with one's body in terms of our emotional life. And I'm feeling that there's something really powerful about what you're doing, because you're connecting to breath, but you're connecting breath to life in a very, which is obviously very primal and historically very important. And if you're making a piece of art about that, you're making a piece of art about the most important thing in the whole world. The idea that it's a very dramatic sound, a visceral thing, a quite alarming thing, is such a correlation with birth, first breath and last
Right.
breath. There's so much conversation around he drew his last breath. It's quite Dickensian bedside. Elizabeth Gaskell, they're on the bedside and they draw their last breath. And I don't know why they're drawing it, but for some reason they draw their last breath. So there's something about the it's loaded, the breath. The whole thing is so loaded, and you're working with something with such historical precedent and so many layers of meaning, but you're making it with a sound without words. And there's so much, I mean, the advances in psychology and understanding around mental health and emotional health now are such that we're now starting to wonder whether words are actually impeding our understanding of our emotional life and our processes.
Sure.
I feel like you've understood that at a very profound level, and listening to them, I'm wondering what your poems evoke in your body when you listen to them.
Wow. Oh, another great question, a stumper. Let's see what my own
I'm really
poems.
sorry. It's just
I
because I'm
love it.
interested.
No, and I had a couple of things based on what you were just saying that I definitely wanted to respond to, because that's wonderful. I think that there are some times when I recite these sounds where there are moments when I lose myself in the sounds, and that becomes a really profound moment, and certainly I kind of hope for that for the performance when I do it at Lifting the Lid, is to get so to have that embodied experience to the point where I'm it is just sort of a vessel for the sounds, and allowing them to kind of go through me, and when that happens, that is really such a the idea of the sublime, kind of reaching this point of awe is really something that I sort of strive for in my work, so for myself, and hopefully to impart that. So the just to go back to what you were saying, though, about connecting the body and the breath. So one of the things, kind of like you were saying, that I have been doing for about 9 years is I started a meditation practice that has. So I'm in the Soto Zen lineage now of Buddhism that I'm practicing. So some of that. Some of the writings around the somatic experience and just embodied experience is so important, and using the breath. In fact, I'm going to be quoting a teacher at the beginning of the breath poem that is talking about using the throat as a swinging door coming in and out of the world, and the connection between the inner and outer world. And your throat is like this swinging door, and the breath is coming in and out and connecting that. And so that's a really beautiful metaphor, I think, for what you were talking about. And so connecting that spiritual practice with my performance background it seemed like a pretty easy connection, marriage. And then something else that you said about drawing the breath that automatically made me think, well, my next project should be trying to draw the breath. I just love that idea, that visual. So, and that's.
It was a bit of a moment, wasn't it? When I said that, I thought we both came to a kind of similar realization in the moment. That's what I love about Lifting the Lid, because you just get to have these exchanges, these creative exchanges in a chaotic world where You and I would never have met in a pub and just had that moment. But yeah, and then all kinds of idioms. Breath is life.
Mhm.
Yeah, drawing the breath would be fab. I just feel so excited for this. I can feel like I just can't wait to hear it and it almost feels ridiculous that no one's done this before. I mean, it's literally the most poetic thing that ever happened.
Well, I appreciate it, and I would still not be surprised if somebody has, and I keep looking for precedents, and so
They
that's
haven't.
great.
I'm sure they haven't. I've not heard of it at all because I think a lot of people would be terrified of it. And also because the general assumption is in Western culture at least, is that it's bad because it's an end. I don't think there's any idea of swinging in and out. And I mean, there's so many cultures where the understanding of breath is far different. I'm only really speaking from my own perspective. But I don't know how many people ever think of a last breath as a good thing because they're not even if there's spiritual practice, they're thinking of what happens next as the good thing, but they're not thinking
Right.
of that final breath as a good thing. So that's interesting. So in terms of the musicality, um, what you're talking about when you were explaining your experience when it becomes very meditative and immersive and it felt like you were talking about something transcendent, and it reminded me of that concept of duende in flamenco where you dance yourself into not oblivion but into a state that in English we don't have a word that correlates with it, so it's very hard to explain it.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, I can imagine. I have a couple of friends who are sort of ballroom dance fanatics, and I think they do talk about this moment of just complete. I guess another word for it could be flow or something where
Flow.
it's
Yeah.
where it's you're no longer it's no longer cerebral. It's just this kind of
Yeah,
moment to
completely
moment.
in the moment.
Yeah.
And then what's the other thing I was just thinking about that correlates with that? Whirling dervish in
Oh
Sufism.
yeah.
It's something.
Beautiful.
It's something kind of really, really beautiful, and that's obviously sound as well. And I'm just thinking, when you think about flamenco singing, the vocal part of flamenco, very breath and throat, and Sufism too. I'm very interested. I study theology anyway, but I'm very interested in how world religions, their relationship to the body, and historically in Christian and Western theology, there's been this awful dualistic separation of body and spirit going back to Hellenistic times, and I feel like we're starting to let go of that, which I think is a very, very good thing, because you're even if you're coming from that philosophy, you're even at end of life separating the body from the body. You're separating the
Right.
body and the breath, even at the end. And that's a very conflicted place for people. So you're sat there with people saying what you're saying, or you're with the families and friends and the loved people. I'm going to record this because it's poetic and because this is their last, but you're recording a last breath. You're giving people an opportunity to integrate and to see breath and body as integrated. It's an incredibly holistic act, and it's so reflective of what you're describing of your life and your life's work and your history. I think that is beautiful. I'd love to know what people say. That's really my next question. What do they say when they hear it?
Well, it's interesting you framed it like that, because what I've typically done is just asked if I could. Do you mind if I record this real quick? I don't go into an explanation for them. But the way you just said it, I think that's a missed opportunity. I really do want. I haven't shared it with them necessarily, or so I mean the recordings themselves. So I think I definitely want to do that. It has just been kind of it was more like me taking notes rather than
Okay, all
giving. So
right.
that's, but but I want to change my tack on that. I think that's beautiful to say,
Yeah.
let me record this. Do you hear how beautiful this is? And so yeah,
Recording their last
that's
breath is
fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah, that
And I
would
feel
be
that's a legacy. That is literally a legacy
right.
of the
No, I
culmination
think,
of their life's work. That final
wow.
breath, amazing. And you're taking that away and saying, this is mum's last music, mum's last
I
gift to the
love it.
world, really.
I will.
Yeah. Some
I will
people
make
might
it
not
a
like
much
it.
more. Yeah. Well, it is a kind of strange cultural thing where there is still a lot of conservatism around the death and dying process, especially here. Um, and so a lot of both the spiritual and the artistic things, if it's not like drawing the hands is something that is very easily understandable and recognizable, and they recognize it as a gift when I give them the drawing and whatever. Um, it seems like I would have to do a little bit of um, preparing them to hear a recording of the last breath as something beautiful, but
Yeah.
it's not that I shouldn't or can't. It's just that would take another level of commitment to it. So that,
Yeah. And it
but I
depends
think
who
it's
they
totally understand. Yeah.
it sort of depends who they are. If you've got someone really woo, or if you're in California, I feel like
Oh, well, sure.
you'd be
Yeah. If I
fine.
was a different part of the world, it would be totally different.
Yeah, but I do think there will be some families that will be open to the concept of oh, this guy, we remember how hard that was that day. There's this guy that's made a piece of music out of it, and I just love what I'm thinking is like when I do my ceremonies, it's just really kind of bringing in my own experience, I suppose. But quite often when I do ceremonies, and if I do them for someone who's been really ill for a really long time,
Hmm?
it's like bringing them back into the room one last time, and it's restoring earlier memories of them before they were in a hospital bed or on a drip, and they start to remember who mum was or who dad was or whoever they loved was before they were identified by their illness.
Mm.
And there's a real power in giving that back to people. And I feel that with the right family, you could be giving them back something which would address the trauma of that last breath, where it's become something musical, something quite not redemptive, but quite afterlifey about it. It's very
Hmm.
metaphorical, isn't it? It's the butterfly, it's the release, it's the transformative moment of death. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack in what you're doing.
And I think that the families that I get the opportunity to spend, like the longer they're on service and the longer I uh, get to know the patient and the family, those opportunities have come around. But the so it is a matter of building that relationship and then giving, then that kind of lays the groundwork for taking something like that and sharing it with them. Um, I've only had one instance where I've done like a celebration of life, and I love this idea of a living celebration of life, where a um, a pre-death celebration, just I guess a living funeral is kind of what that is, right? And so just if there was an opportunity for me to do that, where I'm like there and performing it for them or something like that, that would be an incredible experience. So here's hoping. So,
Yeah,
that'd
this
be
is
wonderful.
why it's so important to have these conversations. So I think I probably will wrap it up there because I feel that
Sure.
we've covered quite a lot of ground, and I don't want to give people too much before you do the thing, because otherwise I'll be here all day, have my own private audience, and then you will have told everybody everything, which we don't want. But I think we'll first of all say what your website is or where they can find you on socials.
I'm basically I'm very I'm not good at self promotional stuff. I do have a Facebook page under Rich Curtis, and I do have a an art blog that's not up to date. So basically, the Facebook page is about the best way to.
I see
You
this.
know,
I think you need me in your life. I'm going to go sell you.
It's also been interesting, this world of having it, the death doulas and some of these things there's such a component of self promotion to it that I'm not either good at or comfortable with, and so I like my little volunteer thing, but this whole idea of doing a festival about it has been just a whirlwind of just wonderful stuff. And I actually found out about this festival through a death cafe from somebody who does an online death cafe in Glasgow. So that's that's the connection here. But so it's a whole world that's just opened up, and it's been amazing.
So new.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've
This
kind
part
of
of it,
done.
definitely.
What I love about it though is a real purity. That's like pure art. I'm exploring a thing that is in me, and now people are interested in it, and it means something, and then it takes on its own life in some sense. And I think it's a real shame if your reticence around marketing and all that. We all hate it. We all hate it. I'm not suggesting that you go all out, but I think people need to know that you're there, Rich. Otherwise you're depriving people of some amazing discovery that you've made.
Well, I appreciate it, and maybe this will be the impetus to do something a little more formal with it. And certainly, when I have a recording, and that I will.
Oh, how brilliant!
Take charge.
So we've got a Facebook page, and we've got a non-up-to-date blog, is what you're saying.
The Facebook page is the best way to find me.
Okay. And what is the Facebook page? Rich Curtis or something
Rich
else?
Curtis. Rich Curtis.
That might come up with Richard Curtis, which we don't want.
Right. I'm not the playwright.
Not the playwright. Thank God. So we've got Rich Curtis, not Love Actually, the other one.
Right.
But the main thing you need to do is come see him and hear the work. So I'm going to be there for sure. Let's tell people again the timings. We were 9:45 here, weren't we? Yeah, 9:45 Greenwich Mean Time.
4:45 Eastern Time Zone.
Yeah.
And so I would love. I can't wait to see who shows up, and also I can't wait to see other people's sessions. So it's just
me too. Oh, trust me, loads of us are going to be there. First of all, and then quite a lot of us are like proper lifting the lid fans that were there every year. So there's quite a nice little community now, and we'll all be there because I know these people, and I think you'll be blown away by the speakers. There's some all kinds of amazing people like you. You're clearly very modest. One might almost think you were English, but apparently you're
I've been
not.
accused of that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it. Okay, well, I'm going to go now. And what I'll do, Rich, is I'll put a little thing together for you, but I'll talk to you about that afterwards. So stay on. I'm just going to stop the recording.
Sure.
Bye, everybody, and we'll see you again.